Alright lads, welcome back to another video. This one is the second one in 2 days now, and it's going to be on the Dunfermline departures. I said yesterday that I would probably do a video on this very soon, and it turns out that a few hours after I filmed that video yesterday, that, well, the news broke about all the departures that have officially happened. Of course there could still be more to come, and I think it won't be the end of contract negotiations and stuff like that at Dunfermline. Of course there is a couple of players that have been offered contracts that were due to run out at the end of this season, and that's been made obvious by the people who have departed the club that there's still a few names that weren't on that list officially, so there will still be some names that are still under talks to maybe stay with us or depart us still, but there's been a massive list in terms of just general. You never really see these many players leave a club unless it's massively needed, and a clear out is what they're going for. The last time this happened to us was that horrendous season in League 1 when we finished 7th in League 1. Now we've finished 7th in the Scottish Championship, and pretty much the exact same scenario has happened. So I'm obviously going to go through the list of departures, give my thoughts on it, and then where we should go for here. Let's get on with it. Right, so the two goalkeepers that were mentioned here were Sean Murdoch and Lee Robinson. I think the two of these guys, I mean Sean Murdoch, he was retiring anyway, so this one really doesn't matter. I wish him all the best in the refereeing that he's going to go into, because that's an interesting path that he's going to take. Obviously you usually see players that retire go into some form of coaching, but Sean Murdoch's decided to go into referee, and apparently he's been looking at it for basically all his career, and he really wants to pursue it now because of his age and stuff like that. So him going into refereeing, it's an interesting path. If I'd had the choice, I probably would have kept him on a short-term contract, but there was no choice in this one. He wants to go and do refereeing with his future career, so all the best to him. And then Lee Robinson, this was a pretty obvious departure that was incoming for about January time. It was probably a bit of a surprise that he hasn't left before this, to be honest, because he's literally not been involved. And unfortunately for Lee Robinson, obviously it's one of those scenarios where you come in, and the scenario that Lee Robinson was in where he was a part-time player, Stevie Crawford didn't like that at all and wanted a full-time keeper in, hence he signed Ryan Scully. So Lee Robinson was never really in the picture, and he was never involved in training sessions. He was seen the odd time around East End Park on match days and stuff like that, but I think it was a pretty obvious departure. So the only two defenders that have officially left the club so far are Ryan Williamson and Mark Durnan. These were two that were out of contract at the end of this season, and I think Mark Durnan, he's had a kind of tough time at Dunfermline because he did come in and look half decent at the start of the season, then he got injured, and then by the time he was coming back he was never really in the first team picture totally. Came back in at the end of the season just there and was okay, but I think he should have probably just moved on anyway, because ultimately the defence hasn't really been that great on the eye this season, and I think he'll probably go on to have a decent enough move somewhere else, probably in the Scottish Championship with someone like Queen of the South, considering Alan Johnson's there of course as well. So I think that Mark Durnan moving on was probably the right move as well. And then you've got Ryan Williamson, a different type of scenario, because of course you wanted Ryan Williamson to do well at this club. He was one of those ones that you looked at and thought, a youth product that's came through the ranks, and with the potential that he had, he could have really given us a fee for him in the future when he moved on eventually, but now his contract's ran out and he's just left the club. So it's a sad predicament. He obviously went through tough times at this club with two massive injuries, and that really kind of derailed 2 seasons that he had. And last season, when he had the link up with Higgy and we had players like Nicky Clark, Fraser Aird, stuff like that, he was fantastic and got double figure assists that season, so he is very capable. But I think a change of environment was just definitely needed for him, and I think overall it's probably the right decision as well, despite it being a bit harder to take for a fan side of it. And then next up is a load of different midfielders. First up, Callum Higginbotham, then Louis Longnidge, Aidan Connolly, Brandon Luke, Robbie Muirhead, James Vincent returning to Dundee, Faisal returning to Dundee, Ryan Blair returning to Swansea, and Bruce Anderson returning to Aberdeen. Callum Higginbotham, again quite similar to Ryan Williamson. It's a bit harder to take because he did have that wee connection with a vast majority of the fan base, and you did want him to be that sort of player to really keep doing well, but this season he hasn't been good enough, and I didn't want to see him go. I wanted to see him maybe stay and be one of the more experienced players in the squad, but ultimately he's not been good enough over the course of this season, and again, a move could probably do him well. He could probably find himself at another Championship club this season, or back down in England where he's obviously came from. So a good player when we had him, especially last season, along with Ryan Williamson, but probably the right decision at this point. And then the next list, I mean, I'm not too fussed about any of them really at all. Louis Longridge, a lot of fans seem to have this one down. Louis Longridge is a player that we should have kept. I was never buying any of that. I just don't see what he really offers to the squad as a whole. I think he's flattered to deceive, and I think that wee injury spell that he had during the season has kind of given the fans a bit of false sense of security about it, because we never really got to see him for all the season. But I just think he's not been good enough. Aidan Connolly, Brandon Luke, Robbie Muirhead, James Vincent, Faisal Abattoui, Ryan Blair. Take Brandon Luke out of the situation because obviously he's just a youth player and will go on to try and do the best in his career, and hopefully he can do that. But the rest of them, I'm not fussed one bit at all. I couldn't even make a case for any of them staying, especially Robbie Muirhead. I was so let down by him this season. The reaction I had when we signed him to the reaction I've got now when he's leaving the club, complete polar opposites. I was so buzzing when we signed him, and he's probably been one of the worst Dunfermline signings in the 21st century. Just cheerio Robbie Muirhead basically. And then the remaining players, Aidan Connolly, James Vincent, Faisal and Ryan Blair. It's sad on the Faisal front. Of course it never worked out the way we wanted it to, but he definitely had to just return to Dundee and not come back to us really. And the rest of them, water off a duck's back, don't care. James Vincent, probably a nice guy outside of football, but a sideways pass and just was never really going to fit here. Aidan Connolly, another one, just not good enough. And then you've got Ryan Blair, who came in the January window, looked half decent until this sort of recent last 8 or 9 games, and he just went right off the boil. His contract's up at Swansea. Who knows what will happen to him in his career now, but I'm glad we've not really looking to extend his contract either. And then of course you've got the enigma Bruce Anderson. He has probably been the wasted player of his time with us, because he has the talent. He could have scored a bag load of goals, more goals than he did score. He scored 5 I think. He definitely did have an impact for us, and playing a more expansive, nice brand of football, he probably could have had even more goals to his name. He'll go back and do well at Aberdeen no doubt, or wherever he ends up next season, whether that's out on loan to another team or, God forbid, back at us, because that would be fantastic. But Bruce Anderson, a really good player, and probably one that we'll look back on and think we really wasted his talents, or it was just a case of wrong place at the wrong time. So that leaves the players that could possibly be getting contract renewals: Lewis Martin, Andy Ryan, James Cragen, Ryan Scully, and I think that's about it. I've maybe missed one player, but I think that's a decent wee group of players to offer some contracts to, and we'll see how that goes in the next couple of days. It's a difficult circumstance really, because a lot of them haven't really been good enough, but I would say that wee group of players is about the only ones that I could have really made a case for. Andy Ryan I think could do well still. I know a lot of fans have their thoughts about him and just don't really get why we're even sticking with him at all, but I think there's still a player in there. Lewis Martin is a handy player to have around the place because he is a versatile defender and hasn't really had the rub of the green this season in terms of injuries, and was coming onto a game at the end of last season, so I can see why we've done that. James Cragen, I want to keep him 100%. He's been an absolute stalwart this season in the team in terms of every position that he could possibly play. He's done it and filled in tremendously well, so I would want to keep him. And then I think that's basically it. Scully's got an option in his contract for an extension, so I think he'll probably sign that, and Cammy Gill as well. So it's a nice wee group that we've got left, and who knows if that'll be the last group of departures to leave Dunfermline this summer. But it's certainly set to be a big summer rebuild for Dunfermline, and it was definitely needed, no doubt. So we'll see how it all goes in the next few weeks or so. I'm sure we'll find out more, and then we'll see the influx of players come in, because there's going to be a lot of players coming in East End Park this summer. But that's it for this video, guys. Cheers for watching. If you did enjoy it, please give it a like. Comment down below what you think of the player departures. I'll leave a list of the departures as the pinned comment at the top of this video, so if you want to look at that list and then say what players you would have released or kept or whatever, then let me know. And also subscribe for more of this type of content. And until the next video, who knows where it will be, I'll see you then. Cheers, guys.